There are moments in history that feel suspended in time, moments when the veil between our world and the next seems to grow impossibly thin. These are the moments that forge legends, give birth to traditions, and sometimes arm the faithful with new weapons for an ancient, unseen war. One such moment left an indelible mark on the spiritual life of the Church and gave us one of the most powerful prayers for protection ever written. This isn't just the story of a prayer, it's the story of its origin, born from a time of intense crisis for the Church and a chilling experience that would shake a pope to his core. We're going to explore the official reason this powerful invocation was commissioned, the crisis that made it necessary, and the spiritual battle it was designed to fight. This prayer is more than just words. It's a spiritual weapon, a shield for the soul, and its story begins in the heart of the Vatican, with a pontiff who saw something that would change him and the Church forever. The date is October 13th, 1884. Inside the Vatican, just moments after celebrating Mass, Pope Leo XIII suddenly stops at the foot of the altar. His face, normally composed, grows pale. For about 10 minutes, he stands frozen, as if in a trance, his eyes fixed on something beyond the chapel walls that no one else can see. The experience he had in that moment, a terrifying glimpse into the spiritual abyss, would lead him to promote one of the most powerful spiritual weapons in the Church's arsenal, a prayer for a battle he believed was looming. To truly get the weight of that October day, we have to understand the world Pope Leo XIII was living in. It was not a time of peace for the Catholic Church. The late 19th century was a period of immense turmoil. Europe was being swept by waves of radical change. Aggressive secularization, revolutionary ideologies, and powerful anti-clerical movements weren't just philosophical debates, they were direct assaults on the foundations of the Christian world. The most painful of these was the Roman question. For centuries, popes had been both spiritual leaders and temporal rulers over the papal states in central Italy. This was seen as a guarantee of the Pope's independence from secular kings. But in 1870, the armies of the newly unified Kingdom of Italy conquered Rome, seizing the papal states and ending the Pope's temporal rule. The Pope at the time, Pius IX, declared himself a prisoner in the Vatican. When Leo XIII was elected in 1878, he inherited this deeply wounded and besieged church. He was a brilliant diplomat, but he was also acutely aware of the dangers swirling around him. He saw these historical events as manifestations of a world under increasing assault by dark spiritual forces. This was the atmosphere in which Pope Leo XIII governed. He saw a church hemmed in by hostile governments and its teachings ridiculed by modern philosophies. He knew that political maneuvering alone wasn't enough. The battle, as he saw it, was fundamentally spiritual. He responded by fortifying the devotional life of the faithful. In 1884, he prescribed a new set of prayers to be recited after every low Mass, with the specific intention of seeking God's help for the independence of the Holy See. He was calling the entire Church to its knees in a spiritual counter-offensive. It was into this already charged environment that the terrifying experience of October 13th would erupt, confirming his deepest fears and giving him another weapon for the fight. Accounts of what happened on October 13th, 1884, have been passed down through various sources. The Pope had just finished celebrating a low Mass in his private chapel. As he was preparing to leave, he suddenly stopped at the foot of the altar, completely frozen. Those present reported that the color drained from his face, leaving it pale and fearful. For about 10 minutes, he was unresponsive, caught in an experience that was both horrifying and awe-inspiring. What did he see? According to early sources, Pope Leo explained that he had a vision of demonic spirits who were gathering on the eternal city. It was a terrifying sight that shook him to his core. Over time, a more dramatic and popular legend grew around this event. This later tradition holds that the Pope overheard a conversation not meant for human ears, a dialogue between Jesus Christ and Satan. In this version, Satan, in his boundless arrogance, boasted to Jesus, "I can destroy your church." He demanded a period of greater power, asking for 75 to 100 years to test humanity. To this demand, Jesus is said to have replied, "You have the time, you will have the power." In that moment, Pope Leo XIII supposedly understood that the 20th century would be a time of unprecedented trial. He saw legions of demons gathering over Rome to wage war on the heart of the Church. It's important to treat this with historical care. Researchers note that while it is certain the Pope had a disturbing experience that day, the detailed dialogue is a later embellishment and doesn't appear in the earliest accounts. But the vision wasn't entirely one of despair. The story concludes with Pope Leo witnessing the glorious Archangel Michael appearing and, after a great struggle, hurling Satan and his legions back into the abyss. The victory was certain, but it would require a battle. As suddenly as it began, the experience ended. The Pope, coming to his senses, immediately went from the chapel to his private office. He knew what he had to do. The vision was not just a warning, it was a commission. He had been shown the coming storm, and now he had to help forge the shield that would protect the faithful. Emerging from the shock of his experience, Pope Leo XIII acted with the urgency of a commander arming his soldiers. His vision had confirmed the need for spiritual warfare, and it propelled him to act decisively. In 1886, 2 years after instituting the first set of prayers, he mandated that a new prayer to Saint Michael the Archangel be added to them. This collection, known as the Leonine Prayers, was to be recited by priest and people after low masses throughout the Latin Rite. It was a universal call to arms. Let's break down this powerful prayer to understand the spiritual armor it provides. It begins, "Saint Michael the Archangel, defend us in battle." This is a direct and urgent plea. It frames our existence as a state of spiritual warfare, the daily struggle against temptation, despair, and the forces that pull us from God. By invoking Saint Michael, whose name means "who is like God," we're calling on the general of the heavenly armies. The prayer continues, "Be our protection against the wickedness and snares of the devil." This line identifies the enemy's tactics, not just overt attacks, but subtle wickedness and snares. A snare is a hidden trap, lies, half-truths, and temptations disguised as good things. We ask Saint Michael to be our shield, granting us the clarity to see these traps for what they are. Next, we turn to God himself. May God rebuke him, we humbly pray. This is a vital act of humility. We don't command the devil with our own power. We recognize that only God has ultimate authority over evil, and we humbly ask him to act. This guards against pride, ensuring our battle is fought with total reliance on God. Finally, the prayer culminates in a charge to the Archangel. "And do thou, O Prince, of the heavenly host, by the divine power of God, cast into hell Satan and all the evil spirits who roam throughout the world, seeking the ruin of souls. Amen. Here, we address Michael by his title, Prince of the Heavenly Host, and specify that his power comes from God. The prayer gives him his marching orders to find and defeat Satan and all evil spirits, whose mission is seeking the ruin of souls. It's a definitive, authoritative, and hope-filled conclusion to our plea. Pope Leo XIII, guided by his terrifying experience, had helped place a powerful spiritual sword into the hands of every Catholic. The story of this prayer shows how deeply faith is intertwined with history. If you are finding this exploration into the spiritual treasures of the Church meaningful, please take a moment to subscribe. We are dedicated to uncovering these powerful stories that strengthen our faith and arm us for the challenges of our own time. Catholic experience changed. For nearly 80 years, from 1886 to the mid-1960s, the recitation of the Leonine prayers after low Mass was a widespread and constant practice. Generations of Catholics grew up with this plea etched into their memories, a final, defiant act before re-entering a world they knew was fraught with spiritual danger. The intention of the prayers evolved. Originally established by Leo XIII to petition for a resolution to the Roman question and the freedom of the Church, the intention was officially shifted after the 1929 Lateran Pacts resolved the issue. In 1930, Pope Pius XI directed that the prayers should now be offered for the people of Russia, who were suffering under the new and brutally atheistic Soviet regime. This resonated deeply with the idea of a century-long trial, as rising communism was seen as one of the most destructive manifestations of evil in the 20th century. This practice continued through 2 world wars and the Cold War, a spiritual bulwark during the very century of trial Pope Leo may have foreseen. Then, in 1964, came a sudden change. In the wake of the Second Vatican Council, a period of sweeping liturgical reform, an instruction titled Inter-Oecumenici declared that the Leonine prayers were to be suppressed. The official obligation to recite them after Mass ceased in March 1965. The reasoning was primarily liturgical. Reformers sought to streamline the Mass, removing later devotional additions to focus on the core Eucharist. Since the Leonine prayers were recited after the Mass had concluded, they were seen as an accretion that could be removed. The suppression, however, was seen by many as a profound loss. In an era that was beginning to de-emphasize the reality of the devil and spiritual warfare, the removal of this prayer felt like the disarming of the faithful. For decades, the prayer that was once a fixture of Catholic life faded from public view, relegated mostly to private devotion. For about 30 years, the prayer to Saint Michael lived on, mainly in private devotion. But the story of this spiritual weapon was not over. The battle for which it was forged had not ended, and one of its greatest modern champions was about to call it back into service. On April 24, 1994, during a Regina Kelly address, Pope St. John Paul II made a powerful appeal. Reflecting on the battle against the forces of darkness, he explicitly referenced the legacy of his predecessor. He noted that Pope Leo XIII likely had the vision of St. Michael in mind when he introduced the prayer. He then made his historic request. Acknowledging its removal, he said, "Even though today, this prayer is no longer recited at the end of the Eucharistic celebration, I invite everyone not to forget it, but to recite it to obtain help in the battle against the forces of darkness and against the spirit of this world. With these words, a pope who had stared down one of history's greatest atheistic empires officially encouraged the revival of this prayer. He was urging a new generation to pick up the shield. Since that time, the prayer has experienced a remarkable resurgence. In the face of new crises, many bishops and priests have answered the call, voluntarily reinstating the prayer after Mass. What was suppressed by liturgical law is now being restored through popular piety. Why does this prayer resonate so powerfully now? Because the wickedness and snares of the devil are timeless. The battle for souls continues today. The snares may look different. The despair fueled by social media, the pull of addiction, the angry divisions that tear society apart. But their source is the same. The prayer is a timeless beacon because it reminds us that evil is real, that we can't fight it on our own, and that God has given us a powerful protector in Saint Michael the Archangel. Pope Francis has also continued this papal focus, consecrating the Vatican City State to Saint Michael's protection in 2013, and repeatedly encouraging the faithful to use the prayer against the devil's attacks. The story of the prayer to Saint Michael is a dramatic journey. It begins with a church under siege and a pope burdened by the weight of a changing world. It is amplified by a terrifying experience, a glimpse behind the veil at the spiritual war for humanity's future. And it results in the promotion of a spiritual weapon, a prayer so powerful it served as a shield for the faithful for decades. Though it fell silent in public worship for a time, its power never waned. Encouraged by a saintly pope and embraced by a new generation, it stands today as a testament to the reality of spiritual combat and the unfailing help God provides. It reminds us to be vigilant, humble, and courageous, for we are not alone in the fight. Let us now, together, take up this spiritual weapon and make these powerful words our own. Saint Michael the Archangel, defend us in battle. Be our protection against the wickedness and snares of the devil. May God rebuke him, we humbly pray, and do thou, O Prince of the heavenly host, by the divine power of God, cast into hell Satan and all the evil spirits who roam throughout the world, seeking the ruin of souls. Amen. This prayer is a gift, a shield for you and your loved ones. Don't let its power remain hidden. Share this video with someone you feel needs the protection of Saint Michael. And if you want to continue exploring the deep and powerful traditions of our faith, be sure to subscribe and click the notification bell. Let us continue to arm ourselves with truth and prayer together.